Susan, right?
Just
Hopefully
Susan.
she'll get on.
She accepted the meeting, so I think. Can you see the screen already, Jenny?
I can.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can.
Let me bring it a little closer to me. Yes, I can see does it say May 20 teacher interview? There's
Yes,
Susan.
yes. Yes. Hello, Susan. Good morning. Oh, you're muted? Yeah.
Good morning. Good to see all of you. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Very good. Finally, the weather is, we have sun shining today.
Thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
That rain was getting really old.
I know. That's a good expression, Susan. It's getting old. So, okay, I know we have a short amount of time. We'll get it done in 25 minutes, so it's a time crunch. Thank you for joining us. And today's a wrap up. We want to have Simon to share a couple of slides first, and then I'm gonna ask Jenny and Susan, you to share your thoughts about the project with the question slides. So that's our plan. I'm gonna give floor to Simon.
Okay. In fact, this is research about the Go game and mass correlation, and so we're supposed to share it like probably at the beginning of the project, but it's also okay. So it's like a wrap up. So at first, we are not sure the Go game and math is like connected. Then finally, someday we had a innovative idea and try to like use a math model to build up the relationship between two items. So the Go game and math, and then we define the score. It's kind of like 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can see here. And we define it as naturally connection, big connection, small connection, little connection, and there's another one, it's called 0. That means no connection, or we cannot find the connection. So example, like if math scale are used naturally in Go game, we give it a score of 4. And if it's used in Go game with small modification, that means most likely we use it, but a little bit change. It's called big connection. So, and we have 4, and small connection means we need to use it as use Go game as manipulators. For example, we use Go pieces, the stones, as a counter, but it's not related to this game. We call it small connection. So that's the model. And then we use this model to Common Core standard. Okay, let's move to next. And the Common Core standard from K to 12, they are 235 items from K to 12. And so we use that model and apply to every item in Common Core standard. And then we discover something very important. And if you see the color red, that's naturally connected. And blue is big connection. And then we discover that from kindergarten to there are lots of connection in early elementary. So for example, in kindergarten, there are 22 items, Common Core math standard. And there are 10 of them are naturally connected. And 5 of them have big connection with math, this Go game and math. And from kindergarten to grade 3, they are 69, I remember 69 items, and 60% of them are naturally and big connection. So that's our research discovery. So example, we will show the, next we will show 2 short video, 30 seconds video. And then we can we will go over the video and mention some Common Core standard. So let's share the next video with sound.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 4, 8, 13, 17, 21.
Okay, how about
about you use the first method you count 5 and then, yes.
Here we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 10, 15, then
Yes, very good. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this kid is she's using like skip counting. This is a second grade student. Skip counting from one side and then from the other side by 4 and by 5, and so she's exploring using like the skip counting method to find the score. Okay, so let's move to next slide. This is our Barbara Rose video.
This. And we can imagine that there's an extra one here. So what's this? Multiplication. 15. Without this one, what's the score? Yes. So 3 times, if this situation is called 3 times 4, 3 times 5 minus 1, right? Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Do you think it's a good game? If it's a good game, write down your score.
Okay, so this one is like the kids is using multiplication and subtraction in the game. So it's like in Common Core Standard in grade 3 we will use like 4 operations. So multiplication, addition, subtraction. If the kids has several area, she will add up all score, use multiplication, and compare score means they will subtraction. So this is all like naturally connected Common Core Standard. So in like summary, that from kindergarten to 3, 60% of the Common Core Standard will be covered with only one game. So that's our research summary I want to share with everybody. Okay, so that's my
Samuel, would you like to talk about workshop later or right now?
Yeah, we do have a
yes
math teacher workshop, but maybe we talk about it later.
Okay. So Jenny and Susan, well, I have a slide of questions and kind of related to the survey questions, some of those. And I wonder if you could share your thoughts on these questions. If you find a question that you feel, you have, thought about or you have observed, among your children. So what opportunities for learning and using math have you observed? What perceptions about project, and what are your students' perceptions? And in the survey, I asked you to think about high, average, and low performing students. So if you have any thoughts about the questions, please feel free to share. Yeah.
Okay, any of them, did you say? Any
Yeah.
of them? Yeah, not in order. So
Right.
Susan, do you mind if I go?
Oh, you go ahead. Sure.
Yeah. So number 1, for the first one, what opportunities for learning? I realized, and it's connected to number 4. I always had the Weiqi games out for students to do when they were done with their work, or even for indoor recess when we had those rainy days, so that they would be able to do that, or after like a math station. And I noticed that the kids that went to the Weiqi were my high students. Hardly ever did my low students, the ones who struggle with math, hardly ever did they ever go to Weiqi. They just didn't. I think they struggled with the concept of it. They understood like the counting at the very end, but the actual strategies, the problem solving of how to place the stones strategically, they really struggled with that. So my high students loved it. They wanted to finish up their work so that they could do that. Or during indoor recess, they even asked me, where are the scores? I need another score sheet, because they had filled up their scores. With my average students, it was hard to tell. Some, I think, wanted to, if they got scooped in with a high student, if they said, can you play with me? They said, okay, but I didn't notice them initiating like asking for it. So that's the biggest difference that I noticed with my high and my low students with the game.
Mhm. Thank you. Susan?
So my observations are similar. And in thinking about those low performing students, I think part of the problem too was just the fact that we had so many kids in one small space when we did our sessions, and a limited number of adults. And so like when you think about a low performing student, you're usually thinking about those kids who have, executive functioning issues, attention, they need one-on-one small group support. And I think, again, because our sessions had so many students in a smaller amount of space, it's very noisy. There's a limited number of adults to sit with those students and really target their needs. And I think that was part of probably why their engagement was lower than those high performing students who just kind of caught on to the game naturally, and they would just have to hear Simon's instructions one time and they were off and ready to go, and probably understood what to do even more than I did, to be quite frank. So I admit I would be one of those students who would have needed like someone to like sit with me and talk me through the strategies again and again, just because that's how my brain works. But yeah, I mean, there are lots and lots of connections to third grade math that I think were beneficial to all students. And then that social piece too, of just coming together to play a game that everyone is familiar with, was really great as well.
Yeah. So number 3, what are the students' perceptions? I want to say that they loved the novelty of it. They loved when you came. They were excited. And I think there was one meeting where we had to reschedule, and they were anticipating your arrival. And I had to say, no, we had to reschedule. And they were very disappointed. So they truly loved you coming into our classroom, and they loved learning a new game. And so that it was a very positive. They felt very positively about Weiqi. But the suggestions, like the smaller group, was quite large, and the noise level, even in those videos, you could hear the background noise of all the other kids, and then we're trying to hop around. So if it could be smaller. Also, one more suggestion, Simon, you did such a fantastic job with your slide presentations, and that really helped those kids who needed that visual and not just the auditory. But for those low learners, and just generally in third grade, they're 8 and 9-year-old kids who have a hard time attending for more than, I want to say, 7 minutes. 7 to 8 minutes is maximum where they just sitting and watching. So when it went a little longer, I could see that the other kids were antsy, and they were they lost the attention, and they were just wanting so desperately to play. They want to play right away. Yeah.
Yes, observe that as well. And you, Jenny and Susan, did a phenomenal job, helping with the behavior. I think your students are very cool. I mean, it's for sure they have the routine down. So I noticed. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to share 2 points. One is right now we are doing another research, try to like match the relationship between Go game and the social emotional learning. There are lots of standards, so we try to do a new research and do something like the the Weiqi game, the Go game, and the Common Core stand. Another one is the original game is very competitive, so we try to like make it less competitive to fit our classroom setting. If it's too competitive and kids, the result of the game is like win or lose, probably most of the kids won't love this game. Only like several advanced player will love this. They win in the game, but most of them, if they lost every day, every game, they won't love it. That's not education. That's like a competition champion. Yeah. Okay. So that's it.
I also noticed in your survey that you said average performing students seemed to love the math connection part of it, and they were able to notice the math and enjoy applying math they've learned in the classroom as compared to compared to other students in the classroom. So do you? I wonder if you could say a little more about that in terms of differences between these groups.
Between what groups? The average and the
high performing, average and low performing groups. So in terms of the math element in the game, since the people were, yeah, go ahead.
So you know that third grade, we the biggest chapter that we tackle in third grade and concept is multiplication and arrays and areas. And so I think those average students got really excited because when we taught that in the classroom and then you were able to reinforce it through your slide presentation and say, oh, that's how we count the stones, the average students felt really good. Like if it looked familiar to them and they were able to practice what they learned in the textbook and through our lessons in an actual game. So that was really exciting for them. I think the high students already knew it, so they were like, yeah. Yeah, that's how we count it. That's the biggest difference. I felt the excitement of, oh, I got it, I get it. That's why we learn multiplication. That type of excitement was there for the average students.
Right, and I think those higher performing math students kind of naturally make those connections to the real world anyways. They kind of see math around them naturally more so than the average or low students. So the lower performing students who are having difficulty just with on grade level multiplication math lessons probably were not in a place where they were ready to make that connection to the game and put it into practice.
So I just had a thought as you were saying that, Susan. I'm wondering if, because we didn't assign partnerships, we just said, go ahead and pick somebody. That social piece, we wanted to combine CI students with our regular mainstream. And then with Susan's, my class, it just happened that we didn't teach CI obviously, but so we just said, oh, go ahead, choose whatever partner. And so now I'm wondering strategically if there's a better way of like partnering them up. I don't know if a low and an average student would help each other out more instead of two lows, because when there were two lows, they were just randomly placing stones, not knowing any strategy and just hoping for the best. Yeah. And then of course my high students would gravitate toward the high students too, and so that was a very competitive game. So just some thought into partnerships maybe for next year.
Yeah, that's good point. I noticed the partnership, really the buddy play a very important role. For example, when one player noticed the other player during the counting at the end of the game, that it's, for example, 3 rows, 3 times 4, 3 rows and 4 columns, things like that. But there's a one loose stone at the end of the, it's the 5th row. But the student counted wrongly, and in terms of multiplication array, he will say, 3 times 5. But in fact, it's not, because you missed 2 stones in the last row, something like that. So the opponent would immediately gently push the hand away. Stop. Okay, I know, but stop. You don't have 2 stones here, and then so he will correct the first student. So that kind of interaction is very interesting, and so they just gently correct and help each other in a way because they have ownership in the game. I don't agree that the way you count the scores and the multiplication is not right.
Right. But that only happens when one kid is able to know it. But if you have 2 low kids who don't know it, they're like, all right. and then if we're not there as an adult at that very precise moment, then that opportunity is lost. Then they just write down the score as, the incorrect score, and then they go on to the next game, and it's like, So what Susan said, having a smaller group and more adults would be able to catch those teachable moments.
We call it incident learning.
Incidental.
Incidental learning, yes.
Yeah.
Those are some of the most powerful moments, though. So
we collect lots of video, but it's so hard to find a good video to share it.
Oh, yeah, I have a few good videos that I love to share with the teachers.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but I have one more question about, is Alex one of your students? I mean,
Alex.
yeah,
I
he
have an
seems to have an
Alex.
adult with him all the time, most of the time.
Yes, Alex
Yeah.
S.
Yeah.
No, yes,
Uh,
Alex S. And I have Eli. So those are my two SAS students. They are in the program
Okay.
upstairs. Yes.
Yeah, I noticed. I think he seems to have good multiplication skills, but he was afraid of competition part of it. When he had fewer scores than opponent, he would kind of push aside one time, push aside, and kind of mingle, just instead reshape and count the scores for me.
Right. I don't know if you noticed that in the first two sessions, he was in tears. He cried a lot. He didn't like the competition part
Uh,
of it.
mm,
He is on the spectrum.
okay.
So he has difficulty with losing. He is high in math. That's why he was in my math class. Normally, those students are not in my math class, but he was high enough to be in my math class. That's why you notice that he was quite good with multiplication, but
Yes.
the competition piece and that social piece was very difficult for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification. So I think we have four more minutes. Yeah. Simon, would you like to touch upon anything
Yeah.
about the
One
workshop?
of the workshop. What workshop?
The PD that we're gonna have.
Oh, we will have a workshop with National Louis in recent future. We are preparing for it. It's about how to use math in the classroom and share more details about research.
And game-based learning.
Yeah, game-based learning. Yeah.
Is this a summer opportunity? Is that what you're saying?
Hopefully, we can do it in May or probably in the beginning of June.
June or
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so we wonder maybe that would be a time we can invite you over. There's a possibility of that workshop, and if we have everything in place, and for that webinar, now it's not gonna be in phase, in person. Yeah. So the focus is on game-based learning. I think we might invite you over if we had that chance to talk about your experience, in the webinar. Yeah.
Oh, for us to not to
Yeah.
take the class, but to speak.
Share a little bit in the for a few
Oh,
minutes.
okay.
Yeah, but if that could happen, because we're talking about inviting teachers from around the suburban areas and make the webinar
Okay.
take place, and so that's just something we still plan in for the near
Okay.
future planning. Yeah, but so just want to share with you. If you,
Uh-oh, you're
Susan and
frozen.
Jenny, yeah, I hope we can still keep in touch in the future, and just I invited Nicole over for a guest speech on for our pre-service teachers, and if you're interested, have time someday, and we can, do that sometimes with the National Louis University too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of your time that you invested in our students. It was a
Yes.
really positive experience for them. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your support, Susan and Jenny. It was a
Yes.
delightful experience. So wonderful, yeah, to see your classroom, and
Thank
really
you for
great teachers. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
Thank
let's
you.
be in touch.
Okay, great. We made it in time. Thank you very much. Have a great day. 25 minutes. All
Okay.
right.
Take care.
Okay. Take care. Have a good summer.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
刚才那个，刚才提到
你说。
workshop，实际上我觉得就这个就是算那个小 workshop，就有了这个就可以直接去。
就不用提了，下一组的时候不用提这个了，就这个
不要
就是小
提那个
workshop。
national，对，这个就算是
对对对，
workshop
你说
了。
的对。那咱们俩这样子统一一下，我刚才确实没。
你老是说那个 workshop。
OK， 没瞧好，嗯嗯。
OK，那
好，
那这个
场关了，咱们看一下有什么改进的。